the Executive George Latimer.
Thank you very much, Commander. It's a great honor to be here in my hometown, and I want to highlight that in a few minutes, both Assemblyman Steve Otis and County Legislator Catherine Park and I will be elsewhere, because there are these ceremonies all over the respective communities of Westchester. We each represent different other communities, but it's a great gift that the three of us can be in our hometown to start the day. Catherine and Steve and I being residents and active here in this home community of Rye. It's a wonderful place to start the day as we finish the day here. I had the opportunity to remember a conversation I had that dates back to the late 1950s. And I was a boy growing up in another part of this county, and we were watching a Memorial Day parade, and my dad was with me. He was of the World War II generation, and we were watching those who were marching in that parade. And I asked him at the time, because I didn't understand, Daddy, what is Memorial Day and what is Veterans Day? Isn't it one and the same thing? And of course, when I didn't understand, I came to understand through his explanation and the rest of my life, which is that Memorial Day represents the day of supreme sacrifice of all those who have died, but Veterans Day represents the sacrifice that have been made by all veterans, everybody who's put on the uniform. Yesterday was the 248th birthday of the U.S. Marine Corps. Bob Cipher, former councilman and former judge, proud Marine. You're never a former Marine, you're always a Marine. Bob, on behalf of your Corps, happy birthday to the U.S. Marines. And to everyone else who has Marines in their resume. But I understood perhaps better what Veterans Day meant when I saw a movie in the 1980s. I did not have military service. I came right after the draft was eliminated in that period of the 1970s. But I saw a movie in the 1980s. You may have seen it. Richard Gere, Lou Gossett Jr., Deborah Winger, An Officer and a Gentleman. How many remember seeing it? Probably on TV somewhere tonight, one of those channels. And what I remember seeing was Lou Gossett, the drill sergeant, up in the face of Richard Gere, the recruit. And he was screaming at him about this far away from him. And suddenly, 13 weeks of basic training came home to my grasp and understanding. Because most of us in civilian life never have that moment. Sometimes your parents may be mad at you, sometimes a spouse may be mad at you, maybe more often than not. But that kind of break you down to build you back up as a fighting man is something that every person that has put on the uniform of this country has gone through. I'm proud of the service of my father, my grandfather, who was part of the American Expeditionary Force in World War I. I don't exactly know where he was in France, but he was there. I'm proud of my late father-in-law, who was Navy and on ships off the coast of Japan and would have been part of what would have been a landing in Japan had that happened. And my mother-in-law, who up until a few years ago was with us every year as a Wade, joined up as a woman during World War II. That great service is extended to the men who are here today and the women who are veterans. And you realize what that sacrifice was. I think the mayor pointed out a very important point. We tend to think of military service in light of the wars that have been fought and in light of the sacrifices made in wartime. And yet, in peacetime, or what we think of as peacetime, those who served had the potential at any point in time to be brought into active service. I had a friend of mine, recently deceased, a bit older than me. He was on a ship in the Atlantic in the 1960s. And he told me what it was like to be on a ship and the Cuban Missile Crisis was underway. And we did not know what was going to happen when an American vessel stopped a Russian vessel with equipment going to Cuba. This could be the beginning of World War III. I was a 9-year-old boy at the time. I didn't really grasp the symbolism of it, but he explained to me what it was like to be on that ship this close to a shooting war. And I suspect anybody who served at the Berlin Wall did not know when and if the East Germans or the Russians would come through that wall and breach and come into the rest of West Berlin. And I suspect if you're at the DMZ, between North Korea and South Korea, on duty, at any point in time, that could have turned into a shooting war. The fact that it didn't doesn't diminish the service of those people who are in military service. These men who are here, look at them now, were once 22-year-old boys. in the fit health of their life. They're pretty tough now, I wouldn't mess with them. But at age 22, with a whole life ahead of you, you serve your nation. You serve your country. You put on the uniform of your country, be it Air Force, Navy, Army, Marines, Coast Guard, and you prepare to give up being here on this village green with all of the good things that go on with civilian life, and you're prepared to go to a distant part of the globe and potentially risk and lose your life for your nation. Dad, I understand. That's what Veterans Day is. That's what it is. Every single person who made that sacrifice, put on the uniform, went through the basic training, put themselves potentially in harm's way, we honor them today. And that sacrifice that they made then is a living, real sacrifice to us every single year. Every year at this village green, and in a few minutes at the Veterans Park in Port Chester and down in Mamaroneck, in front of the old Mamaroneck courtroom, all across this nation, this country will not forget the sacrifice these men and women have made. God bless you, gentlemen, and by extension, all of your brothers who serve this nation.